Imagine waking up one morning and realizing your actual face is no longer trending. Not your mood, not your mind, not even your makeup, your literal bone structure. It sounds absurd, but that's exactly what's happening in the age of digital beauty. We now live in a world where faces are not just seen, they are ranked, optimized, and quietly corrected, where imperfection is no longer just unfashionable, it's unreadable, where the default setting is artificial perfection. And we've all seen her. That face, pouty lips, impossible smooth skin, softly lifted eyes, and a nose that somehow manages to defy genetics. It's the Instagram face, the TikTok filter girl, the Lensa avatar. She's in your feed. She might be your favorite influencer. She might even be you. But here's the haunting truth. She isn't real. This ideal face, a digital amalgamation of celebrity features, algorithmic preferences, and social validation, is not just a style, it's a symptom, a mask we're all being trained to wear. And it's no coincidence that this mask erases signs of ethnicity, age, individuality, and emotional nuance. It's not about beauty, it's about conformity. The rise of the AI face didn't begin in a lab. It started in bedrooms and bathrooms, in front of ring lights where millions of young women downloaded Facetune just to play. A little blur, a little lift, and a little glow. But filters have a funny way of becoming expectations. Soon, the unedited selfie felt shameful. A betrayal. The version without enhancements was no longer the before, it was the failure. And this shift has consequences. Psychologists have begun to study a phenomenon known as selfie dysmorphia, a condition where people become distressed that they can't replicate their filtered appearance in real life. Surgeons report a surge in clients asking for procedures not to look like someone else, but to look like their digitally altered self. A self they've grown to prefer. We are watching a cultural collapse in real time. The slow disappearance of the flawed face. A face with pores, with freckles, with asymmetry, with emotion, with history. Historically, beauty standards have always shifted. Corsets in the 1800s, the waifs of the 90s, the thigh gap of the 2010s. But the AI face is different. It doesn't evolve. It doesn't respond to culture. It responds to data. It learns what gets attention and refines itself until it becomes a feedback loop of sameness. And worse, because it's powered by machine learning, it gets harder to resist the longer it exists. You begin to feel it in the little moments, avoiding photos when you're not ready, flinching at your front camera, second guessing if your real smile is too crooked to post. You start to notice the filters your friends use, the subtle edits, the ways people are erasing themselves for acceptance. And maybe, most hauntingly, you start to wonder if your real face is a problem to be fixed. This isn't just about technology. This is about identity, about autonomy, about the subtle ways we are trained to loathe a reflection and worship a ghost. Because in the end, what does it mean when the most beautiful version of you is the one that isn't real? And what happens to the girl underneath when even the mirror starts lying? Chapter 1, The Rise of the Instagram Face. To understand the AI face, we have to rewind to a different kind of digital era, the birth of the influencer culture in the early 2010s. This was the era of Valencia filters and perfectly staged flat lays, when your value online wasn't just about who you were, but how you curated yourself. And nothing embodied this more than the rise of the Instagram face. The term was coined by writer Gia Tolentino in The New Yorker, describing a face that was white but ethnically ambiguous, with high cheekbones, plump lips, and a small, neat nose and cat-like eyes. Think Kim Kardashian, Bella Hadid, and Kylie Jenner, faces not just admired but algorithmically replicated. Their features became blueprints, cut and pasted across millions of digital facades. But this face didn't arise in a vacuum. It evolved out of a changing relationship with media. Before social platforms, beauty standards were largely dictated by gatekeepers, magazines, movies, designers. They told you who was beautiful, and you consumed it passively. But Instagram flipped the script. Now anyone could be the ideal, if they looked the part, and technology made that easier than ever. Apps like Facetune and Visco allowed users to subtly or dramatically alter their features. You could slim down your jaw, brighten your eyes, smooth your pores, and plump your lips. No surgery, no makeup, no lighting tricks. Just your phone. Suddenly, anyone with a smartphone could build their own version of perfection. By 2015, this filtered aesthetic had solidified into something more permanent. What started as light touch-ups became an expectation. The real face, your real face, fell out of place. Influencers, under constant scrutiny, often confessed to feeling panic about being seen without edits. Even the no makeup selfie trend was often filtered through apps that blurred skin and adjusted lighting. And slowly, the Instagram face stopped being a digital illusion. It began to cross over in real life. Plastic surgeons began reporting a new kind of client. Women, especially young women, who weren't asking to look like celebrities anymore. They were asking to look like their filtered selves. One 2019 survey found that 55% of plastic surgeons had patients referencing social media filters during consultations. The most requested procedures: lip fillers, cheek augmentation, and rhinoplasties. Precisely the elements featured in the Instagram face. What makes this trend particularly insidious is how it feeds off validation. When you post a filtered photo and receive praise, comments like gorgeous or you're glowing, the validation doesn't feel fake. But it's not directed at you, it's directed at the edited version of you. And slowly, you start to believe that version is more lovable and more acceptable. For everyday users, the pressure was no different. A 2021 study published by JAMA Facial Plastic Surgery found that around 90% of women ages 18 to 30 reported using filters or editing apps before posting selfies. And more than half said their edited photos made them feel worse about how they actually looked. And the Instagram face wasn't just an aesthetic, it was a feedback loop validated by likes, comments, followers, brand deals. It created a hierarchy of beauty, one that was entirely artificial yet incredibly pervasive. Take the case of Amira, a 22-year-old college student from Texas. In her interview, she described spending up to 45 minutes editing a single selfie. I wasn't even trying to look like a celebrity, she said. I was trying to look like my own edited face, one where people are used to seeing the one they liked more. Then there's the influencer economy. The more your face conforms to the Instagram mold, the more your posts perform. Beauty became less about individuality and more about optimization. The algorithm favored familiarity, symmetry, and smoothness. So people gave it exactly that. Over time, individuality felt like a liability. This pursuit of perfection wasn't isolated, it became global. Influencers from all around the world began adopting the same facial proportions, the same aesthetic code. There was even a term for it in China, Wang Hong Lian, or internet celebrity face. It described the same phenomenon, a face so edited and symmetrical it was almost interchangeable. And underneath this homogenization was a deeper question. If everyone's chasing the same face, what happens to our sense of self? When your digital identity becomes your default identity, are you still you? And the Instagram face was never just about beauty. It was about blending in, about self-preservation in a digital world that punishes difference. A world where individuality became risk, where showing up as yourself meant being left behind in the feed. And now, as filters evolve into full-scale AI, we aren't just altering our faces, we're outsourcing them, replacing our humanity with a version built to please an invisible machine. The face we once wore for others is now the one we wear for ourselves. And the question is no longer, do I look good? It's, do I look like I should? Chapter 2, the algorithm chooses you. In the past, beauty trends were shaped by cultural shifts, war, fashion, feminism, rebellion. Now beauty is shaped by something far less human, data. Today's beauty standard isn't set by taste or artistry. It's created by algorithms, cold, impersonal lines of code that don't care about meaning, only about engagement. Every time you linger on a video, double tap a selfie, or save a makeup tutorial, you're training the algorithm. You're not just participating in culture, you're shaping it. But the catch is, you don't control what it learns. It learns patterns. It doesn't care if something is beautiful or harmful. It only cares if people click. The result is a closed feedback loop. A certain kind of face, smooth, symmetrical, light-skinned, digitally enhanced, gets more likes. So the algorithm pushes more of those faces to the top of the feed. which means more people see them, which means more people engage. And round it goes, reinforcing a narrow, homogenized idea of beauty that grows more extreme with every cycle. This isn't theoretical. In 2020, researchers at the University of Cambridge analyzed how social media algorithms reinforce Western beauty ideals. They found that content featuring digitally altered, Eurocentric features was amplified at a disproportionately high rate, while photos showing natural skin textures, darker complexions, or facial flaws were suppressed by automated moderating systems. Platforms won't admit this. They claim neutrality, but the numbers don't lie. A beauty standard optimized for clicks is not one that celebrates difference. It's the one that rewards sameness. And it doesn't stop at social media. AI portrait tools like Lensa, Reface, and even Snapchat's AI-enhanced avatars all do the same thing. They offer you a version of yourself that is more smoother, sexier, and more symmetrical. And because it's based on your face, it doesn't feel like an edit. It feels like a revelation, a glimpse of the person you could be. Except it's not real. These tools operate on massive training sets, millions of images that teach the machine what's considered attractive. Most of these training sets are biased, overwhelmingly leaning towards Caucasian, which means that the AI reimagines you. It often erases markers of race, gender, and nonconformity or age. It lightens skin, it sharpens jaws, it feminizes or masculizes features to match internalized ideals. People have already noticed. Black users of Lensa reported their avatars returned with significantly lighter skin. Asian users found their features westernized. Overweight users have found themselves slimmed without consent. This isn't enhancement, it's erasure. It's machine learning with built-in prejudice. And it's not about filters. Beauty brands have joined in too. Companies now use AI not only for advertising, but for product development. Brands analyze data from millions of images to determine what kind of looks sell best. Then they tailor their campaigns to match. Some beauty companies are using AI to scan your selfies and recommend skincare based on facial analysis, subtly reinforcing the idea that your skin as it is a problem that needs to be diagnosed and fixed. There are even AI influencers now, completely fictional characters with perfectly calibrated faces, updated regularly to match audience preferences. These avatars never age, never gain weight, and never get acne. They don't eat, they don't sleep. They exist to be seen and to sell, and they're outperforming their human counterparts in engagement. But perhaps the most unsettling part is how willingly we are to participate. We hand over our data, our photos, our faces voluntarily. We download the apps, we opt into the filters, we train the very systems that erase us. Why though? Because we want to be seen, and in a digital economy built on visibility, the price of attention is assimilation. We are no longer editing ourselves to look better. We're editing ourselves to be chosen by the algorithm, by the audience, and by the system. And as AI gets smarter, it's become less of a tool and more of a judge. It tells us what looks good, what's desirable, what's valuable, and it does so with the cold authority of math. There's no appeal, no nuance, just data-driven desirability. So what happens when the machine tells us we don't measure up? The answer isn't our reflection anymore. It's the code behind the glass. Chapter 3. Body dysmorphia by design. The AI face isn't just a filter, it's a psychological phenomenon, and its influence doesn't stop at the screen. What began as a playful photo enhancement has morphed into something darker and more invasive. A new form of body dysmorphia has emerged, and it's not about wanting to look like a celebrity, it's about wanting to look like a version of yourself that only exists online. Psychologists now refer to this as selfie dysmorphia, a subtype of body dysmorphic disorder, BDD, in which individuals become obsessed with small flaws that are amplified by the curated filter versions of their faces. And the cases are rising. In 2021, a study from the American Psychological Association reported that 1 in 8 women between the ages of 18 and 30 experienced significant anxiety or depression tied to their appearance in photos, even those altered by filters. A famous dermatologist at Harvard Medical School has spoken about what she calls the Facetune effect. She says the issue isn't just that filters distort our expectations of others, they distort our expectations of ourselves. People bring in selfies with filters as reference images. It's like they want to erase a part of themselves that is human. And the most disturbing part, these feelings are starting earlier than ever. Gen Z was the first generation raised on filtered images. But Gen Alpha, children currently under 13, are being shaped by them from birth. They're not just growing up in a filtered world, they're forming their identities inside one. A report of Common Sense Media found that over 60% of girls aged 11 to 14 use photo editing tools before sharing images online. By age 13, most girls report feeling pressure to look camera ready at all times. Some have even described feeling anxious when friends tag them in unfiltered photos. I remember back in the day, it was like point and shoot cameras, and you didn't even know what the photo was until you developed it. This isn't vanity, it's conditioning. 12-year-olds are skipping meals because their edited selfies have taught them that their cheeks are too full. 14-year-olds are researching rhinoplasty after a TikTok trend claims nose shapes reveals personality. Clinics in the UK and US have reported using requests for cosmetic procedures from teens who've never been told their real face is good enough. And it's not just girls. Boys too are being swept up in similar crises. Muscle enhancing filters, jawline sharpeners, and skin perfecting apps are subtly pushing a hyper masculine ideal. Boys as young as 10 are now using apps to give themselves six-pack abs, while men in their 20s are requesting jawline implants to resemble filtered versions of themselves. Medical professionals are sounding the alarm. Plastic surgeon Dr. Philip Miller has seen dramatic increase in young patients who come in with filtered goals. He explains that these individuals don't want to change because of social stigma. They want to change because they genuinely believe the filtered face is their real potential. It's a new kind of dysmorphia, he says, and it's been driven by technology. In some cases, these expectations spiral into more severe disorders. Clinical psychologists warn that persistent dissatisfaction with one's real face can lead to anxiety, depression, and other disorders, and obsessive behaviors. And because this obsession is reinforced through daily phone use, there's rarely a break in the cycle. Even when people know the face they're chasing is fake, they still feel the need to conform. And that's the power of machine-driven beauty. It's not rational, it's emotional. It taps into something primal, the need to belong, to be accepted, and to be desired. And when that acceptance is based on an artificial ideal, real self-worth becomes increasingly hard to access. Some users have shared their stories anonymously on Reddit and TikTok. One woman, a 24-year-old, explained that she edited her photos so often she didn't recognize herself in mirrors. Another said she stopped dating entirely because she felt like catfishing every time she showed up without a filter. One teen said she avoided applying to colleges that required in-person interviews because she couldn't bear to be seen. These are not just isolated stories. They are part of a growing epidemic, one quietly unfolding behind every front-facing camera. Because when you're taught to edit your face before you even learn to love it, the message is clear. Your real self is not enough. And that message, repeated over and over, becomes internalized. It becomes a voice in your head, a voice that says, you could be beautiful if only you look like yourself. Chapter 4, Surveillance, Selfie Culture, and the Panopticon Mirror. We like to think of the mirror as neutral, a place to check our hair, reapply lipstick, maybe catch a glimpse of ourselves before heading out the door. But today's mirror isn't just made of glass, it's made of code. And it's not just reflecting on us, it's watching us. We've entered a new phase of digital life, one where our faces are no longer private. They are scanned, sorted, stored, and assessed by governments, corporations, dating apps, job recruiters, and even shopping malls. Facial recognition technology has become ubiquitous, quietly reshaping our relationships with identity, privacy, and visibility. What's more disturbing, it doesn't work the same for everyone. In 2018, a landmark study by MIT Media Lab revealed that commercial facial recognition systems had error rates of up to 34% when identifying darker-skinned women, compared to 1% for lighter-skinned men. These tools, trained predominantly on white male faces, struggle to recognize and correctly classify people outside those demographics. Which means the more human you are, the more unique, aged, or ethnic non-conforming, the more likely you are to be erased by the machine. Take the case of Robert Williams, a black man in Detroit who was wrongfully arrested after being misidentified by facial recognition software. Despite having no criminal record and a solid alibi, he was detained for over 30 hours based on a flawed tech. His story is not an outlier. It is a part of a broader pattern. It's not just law enforcement. Retail chains like Walmart and Target have experimented with facial recognition to track suspicious shoppers, raising concern about racial profiling. Airports use it for efficiency, but travelers have little understanding of control over their biometric data stored for use. I know it does scare me. Like, even at the border, I think they scan your face now. And schools are now installing facial recognition cameras under the banner of safety, meaning children as young as 6 are being taught that surveillance is normal, and the more we accept it, the harder it becomes to resist. And the irony, we are also surveilling ourselves. We watch ourselves constantly through front-facing cameras, Zoom calls, Instagram stories. The mirror has a two-way window, one that feeds both our vanity and our anxiety, and we are always performing, not just for others, but for the algorithm. The AI doesn't just record what we look like, it judges it. It decides who gets more exposure, who shows up on Explore pages, who lands brand deals. This kind of digital visibility is a new form of social currency. And beauty in the system becomes a kind of obedience, a willingness to play by the algorithm's rules. Smile, but not too much. Show skin, but not the wrong kind. Be unique, but never recognizable. For influencers and job applicants alike, fitting into the machine's expectations can mean the difference between success and invisibility. Even dating apps are now using facial analysis to suggest matches based on biometric compatibility. But what does that mean when an algorithm decides who you're attracted to or who's attracted to you? This isn't the future, it's the present, and the legal system can't keep up. In the US, there's currently no federal law regulating facial recognition use. Some cities like San Francisco and Portland have banned its use by government entities, but in most places the technology is deployed with little transparency, oversight, and accountability. Meanwhile, companies are continuing to harvest faces from public platforms, scraping selfies from Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook without your consent. In 2021, the app Clearview AI was sued for doing exactly this, building a database of over 3 billion photos scraped from the internet. Most people in the database had no idea they were in it. So what does this have to do with beauty? Everything, because the same systems that surveil us are the ones shaping our ideals. The machine doesn't just want a face, it wants a certain kind of face, and the more we edit ourselves to fit that mold, the more we reinforce the logic. We become complicit in our own erasure. The surveillance state and the selfie culture have merged, and the result is a digital panopticon, a system where we are always visible, always judged, and never fully in control of how we are seen. Because when the mirror is no longer neutral, when it becomes an extension of the machine, beauty stops being a personal expression. It becomes a requirement. Chapter 5, The Return of the Real. In a world dominated by distortion, realities become radical. A quiet, almost imperceptible rebellion is growing, led not by celebrities or tech giants, but by everyday people who are exhausted by the pressure to perform. It's happening in small ways. Blurry late-night selfies with no filter, and get ready with me videos that show the unedited mess of life, and influencers posting side-by-sides of their real face and their AI-optimized avatars saying, "This is not me." These moments might seem trivial, but they're acts of defiance. In an algorithm that thrives on sameness, showing up authentically is a disruption, a glitch in the machine. Cultural pushback is emerging in more visible ways too. Movements like no filter, skin positivity are pushing for an end to digital perfection. There's brands like Dove and Aerie and Glossier who have launched campaigns featuring untouched models, challenging the industry's obsession with flawlessness. Some beauty influencers now include disclaimers on posts that use filters or editing apps, a kind of informed consent to their audience. And Gen Z, paradoxically, the most filtered generation, may also be the one to break the spell. They've grown up in the shadow of the AI face and are beginning to recognize its toll. Mental health apps, digital detox trends, and content creators who openly discuss dysmorphia and digital burnout have gained millions of followers. Even some plastic surgeons are speaking out, refusing to perform procedures on patients chasing filtered versions of themselves. There's power in naming the problem, and even more in resisting it. Still, the pressure remains immense. For every unfiltered post, there are thousands of edited ones. For every body positive hashtag, there's a viral beauty filter promising to fix what's broken. The machine is relentless, but it's not unbreakable. This chapter isn't about going back to simpler time. There's no return to an analog past. Technology is here to stay, and it's not inherently the enemy. The danger lies in how we use it, or how importantly, how we allow it to use us. So what do? We start by reclaiming control over the images we consume, and then once we can create, by questioning why we feel compelled to edit our faces before we show them, by diversifying our feeds and supporting creators who aren't obsessed with using AI. We talk about it with our friends. We teach others to see beauty not as currency, but as expression, not as obedience, but as power. And most importantly, we give ourselves permission to be seen, not as holograms, not as avatars, but as real living people, messy, asymmetrical, aging, and alive. We used to look in the mirror to find ourselves. Now we look to see if we've measured up. The AI face was never just about aesthetics. It was about erasure, about conformity disguised as self-love, about how easily we can be convinced that the problem is us, not the system teaching us to disappear. But we have a choice. We can reject the fantasy that tells us our real faces are failures. We can challenge the platforms of filters and the beauty industrial complex. We can demand representation that isn't sanitized by algorithms. We can say enough. But at the end of the day, the mirror doesn't get the final word. You do. So the next time you open your front camera and scroll past another AI-optimized influencer, or feel that familiar itch to shrink or smooth your face, look closer. Ask yourself, is this the face I chose or the one I was told to wear? And if you don't like the answer, maybe it's time to take the mask off, because the real face, the one with all its history, texture, and joy and sorrow, might be the most beautiful thing left. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments below.